I've been an IT project manager for over 8 years. I've worked remotely from Mexico, from Colombia, Peru, Argentina. I made over $300,000 in a single year doing this job. And I can tell you the two most common things people say about PM workloads are both wrong. One side says, hey, it's an easy job. The other side says, hey, it's going to burn you out. Here's what actually happens. When people look at a project manager from the outside, they often see someone who isn't doing what they consider real work. They're not writing any code. They're not building anything with their hands. They're not processing a stack of tickets. All they're doing is just talking to people. They're in meetings. They're sending updates. And to someone who measures productivity by visible output, that can look like a light workload. On the other end of the spectrum, there's a version of the PM role that people imagine as being completely chaotic, as being always on, as always fighting fires, or never able to really leave the office mentally. And so the truth sits somewhere in the middle of those two extremes. The work of a project manager is fundamentally different from most other roles in an organization. Most roles produce some kind of visible, measurable output. A developer ships code, an analyst could produce a report, a coordinator completes tasks. A project manager, on the other hand, produces coordination, decisions, and forward momentum. And those things are harder to see, but they are not lighter work. Here's what the actual workload of a project manager looks like in practice. There are periods where the calendar is full, where the pressure is really high, and decisions need to happen fast. And then there are periods that look slower, where the work is just mostly planning and communication and preparation. But here's what most people miss entirely. The work of a project manager doesn't stop when you leave the office. And I'm not talking about answering emails at midnight. I'm talking about something a lot more subtle. Project managers are almost always thinking about their project. When they're driving home, they're mentally replaying a conversation and thinking about how to handle it differently. When they're at the gym, they're running through an upcoming stakeholder meeting in their head. When they're having dinner, they're thinking about a risk or a dependency that's sitting in the back of their mind. And so this is the part of the PM workload that nobody talks about: the mental processing, the strategy work, the influence planning work. This doesn't show up on a timesheet, but it is real work. And it's one of the reasons that strong project managers are often able to show up to high stakes situations already prepared, because they've been working through it in the background long before the meeting actually happens. So let me explain this invisible work a little bit more. Let's start with influence planning, because this is something that separates good project managers from the average ones. A lot of what a PM does is get things done through people that they don't have direct authority over. They can't order a stakeholder to approve something. They can't force a vendor to move faster. They can't demand that a senior leader prioritize their project. They have to influence. And effective influence doesn't happen spontaneously. It's thought through. A good PM will spend real mental energy working out who needs to approve this. What matters to that person? How do I frame this request in a way that aligns with their priority? What objections will they have? What do I need to prepare before I walk into that room? That thinking happens continuously on the commute, in the shower, between meetings. That's not laziness. That's how the work actually operates. Let me give you a real example from one of the places I was working at previously. I was running a project for a medical device manufacturer. We needed to get a budget approved so we could place an order for a piece of equipment. The reason this mattered was lead time. The particular equipment that we had to order had a very long procurement lead time, meaning if we didn't order it by a certain date, then you were going to fall behind. And when you're working on a project that has a regulatory requirement and fixed milestones, falling behind isn't just an inconvenience, it's actually a real problem. So I needed one director to sign off on a budget. Simple enough on paper, but here's what actually happened. For a few days before that conversation, I was actually thinking a lot about it. Not in some type of stress or anxious way, but more like in a problem solving in the background kind of way. I was thinking about who this director was, what they cared about, and what they were actually motivated by, and how it could get them to act quickly. Because stakeholders delay when they don't feel urgency or when they feel like they're the only one taking a risk. And then I remembered something from a book called Influence by Robert Cialdini. One of the principles he outlines is called social proof. The idea that people look to what others are doing when they're uncertain about what to do themselves. So instead of just asking for the approval directly, I shifted my approach. I went in and said, hey, I wanted to give you an update. All of the other directors have already approved their project budgets. Yours is the only one that I'm waiting on. And so that was the framing that I used, that you're the only one left. And it actually worked, because the director didn't want to feel like the outlier. They didn't want to be the only one holding things up while everyone else had already approved and acted. The approval came through that same day, and I was able to get the stuff ordered on time. Now, here's the point. That outcome didn't happen because of what I said in that meeting. It happened because of the days I spent thinking about it beforehand. That thinking was the work, even though it didn't look like work to anyone else or anyone else watching from the outside. Now, the second issue that I want to address in terms of project managers working less, or if they can work less hours, And the answer is yes, sometimes, but it's conditional. The PMs who are able to work or manage their hours well, who are not constantly in reactive mode, are the ones who are highly organized. They batch their communication, they plan ahead, they anticipate problems before those problems show up on the radar, and they don't let small issues grow into crises that require emergencies to resolve later on. When a PM is operating in that mode, the calendar can look light, meetings are purposeful, decisions are pre-prepared, status updates are out on schedule, and that's not a lack of work, that's the work paying off. The flip side is a PM who operates reactively. Those PMs are constantly chasing people, their hours are unpredictable, their projects feel chaotic, and the team around them can feel it too. So the honest answer to the question, do project managers work less, is that yes, organized ones can, disorganized ones absolutely cannot. If you're working towards a PM role, here's what this might mean for you. So first, understand that the PM work is mostly cognitive. The measure of a PM is not how many tasks they complete in a day. It is the quality of their thinking, their decision making, their ability to move things forward through influence and coordination. That's a different kind of output, but it's still output. Second, start developing the mental discipline right now. Get comfortable thinking about problems in the background. Work through conversations before they happen in your head. Think about what the other person needs to hear, not just what you want to say. That mental habit is what separates strong project managers. Third, start building the organizational systems that let you work ahead, because the PMs who are respected for their efficiency, who can manage their time without burning out, are not working less because they're lazy. They're working less because they planned better than everyone else. So do project managers really work less? The honest answer is it's the wrong question to be asking. The better question is, what does PM work actually look like? Because it's not what most people picture. It's not just tasks. It's not just meetings. It's continuous thinking, planning, influencing, and decision making. Some of that happens on the clock, and a lot of it happens in the background, whether you're at your desk or not. That's the reality of the role. And if you understand that going in, you'll approach the work very differently than someone who just expects a lighter schedule. If this gave you a clearer picture of what project management actually involves, consider subscribing to my channel, like this video, because this is a kind of honest breakdown of the role that I consistently try to put out. If nothing else, I'll see you on the next one.